This garden this time of year is so beautiful, yet it's so temporary. I can't describe the feeling that this gives me. I guess it's joy, right? I just feel so lucky and happy to be surrounded by all this beauty in the garden. But I also feel a sense of sadness and loss already because I have this sense of how temporary it is and how fragile it is. But that also is what makes it special. I hope you're getting out and finding joy in your gardens, and if you can't for any reason, I hope you're able to share some of what I have here and the joy that I'm trying to bring here through these videos. Well, the daytime temps are hitting the 60s now, and the nighttime temps are getting into the 45-ish zone. That's very tempting because the greenhouse with the doors closed at night might make it feel a little bit warmer, and if it's 45 outside, maybe it's not going to be a lot warmer, but maybe I can convince myself that it's closer to 50. And the significance of the 50 after the sun goes down is that if you have 50-degree temps at night, that's kind of the trigger for being able to put a lot of plants out. So I still have a lot of stuff that is sitting in the basement nursery that I'm waiting to bring up here to the greenhouse because of waiting for those temps. I mean, if I could just assume that the nighttime temps in the greenhouse were a little more than 45-ish, I feel like maybe that's close enough. I could start putting some more stuff out there in the greenhouse and really get this going. I mean, I don't really need to, but the idea of putting my potted up tomatoes and peppers from the basement in the greenhouse just makes me feel like I'm getting on with things, like the season's moving ahead. I guess other gardeners maybe know what I'm feeling about that. We get anxious, right? And we want to get to the next step, and I don't want to wait another week before I'm ready. And maybe if I get them in the greenhouse now, then that puts me a week ahead of getting them out into the ground later. So that's all the anxieties that are going through our heads this time of year. I know you feel it like I do. But, you know, I'm standing underneath the potting bench roof here because while you see it's sunny out there, it's actually been raining and then sunny and then raining and then sunny. So it actually isn't fully ready yet. You know, I didn't appreciate the lilacs that are behind me here in the garden when I arrived. The trees were really overgrown and they were covering all the way, you know, past kind of 2 garden beds this direction. And after I got that cleaned up, it was clear to me that once upon a time, this was a design, that there was a nice row of these lilac trees here. So what I did was I restored that order, giving them their own bed. I call it the lilac row. And this is where the kind of the blue sea of Muscari was, but now it's dying back for the year and the lilacs are beginning to bloom. Well, their fragrance is amazing. It's a short-lived treat. You can see I've trimmed the lilacs back in order to kind of create more of a lollipop effect, although they don't have that uniform canopy at the top quite yet. Perhaps they never really will. I don't know that their growth habit will allow me to achieve that, but in any case, trimming them down this way has made their flowers more accessible to kind of go up and get a big whiff. Ooh. Yeah. Hey, in case you're wondering what I'm up to back here, I am moving. I have in these tubs back here some Grimm's potting soil, and this is made for pots and containers. It's not really meant to be a seedling mix per se, but I find that it's pretty high quality in terms of they mix some sand and compost and things together, and so I like it. But in order to make it a seedling mix, what I do is I'm moving it from these tubs into little buckets that are easy for me to take down to the basement where I start seeds, and then in the basement I mix it with perlite and some peat to turn it more into a seeding mix. So in my when I'm doing like straight on seedlings, I'll probably use like less. I'll probably only have about a quarter of this in my mix for brand new seeds. When I pot up to right now I'm potting up to tomatoes and peppers and things like that. So I'm potting up to bigger containers. I'll have a higher ratio of this stuff. So I'll have more of a maybe a half, almost maybe even closer to 2/3 of this, and then the other third being a little bit of peat and maybe perlite. Maybe half. I think I'm still gonna have a lot of perlite in there, so I'm probably not doing 2/3 of this even when I'm potting up. But that gives you an idea of how I'm using it. It goes a long way that way, and the reason I have in these tubs back here like this is that I get it delivered in bulk. So it's delivered in big piles. You know, you've seen my compost piles before. It's similar to that. It gets delivered in big piles. And then at the beginning of the season, we put it in these tubs so that it'll last us for the whole season. It's protected from the element, so to speak, or getting other kinds of like weed seeds and stuff mixed in it while we're waiting to use it. And that lets it go the whole season. And that's this whole strategy. You know, you say, why do you do all this stuff? Well, because if I just buy like bags of Miracle-Gro seedling mix, which I'm not knocking it, if you guys use that or whatever, that's fine. It's just that if I do that, it's just too expensive because of the volume, the quantity that I'm growing seedlings at. You know, that would be, you know, 5 times the cost of what I do here. So I'm planting grain again this year. The grains that I plant are quinoa and amaranth. Well, technically they're seeds, not grains. It's the seeds of quinoa that people typically eat. Although the leaves are edible, the plants are actually in the same family as spinach, and I do have a variety of edible amaranth that is designed to just eat the leaves. So for me, I find quinoa and amaranth both have a decorative quality as well as potential utility. The problem is I run out of room in the garden beds. You know, it takes a lot of room to plant these things if we're going to grow them for seed. When I've done this in the past, a 15 by 3 foot row yielded about 4 to 5 cups of quinoa seed for me. So I grow primarily for ornamental value. I think it looks great in large bunches. This year I don't foresee having a lot of room out there in the garden beds for it, but I'm still going to give it a go. So I have a couple of trays that I'm planting. I have rainbow quinoa, that's something I've grown before, and I'm also planting for the first time the Hot Biscuits amaranth, which I think is more of a golden colored of amaranth. Then I'm also planting the red garnet amaranth that I grew vigorously last year. Hey, this is the season when I get out here and I start mowing the grass. I used to collect the clippings and put them in the compost pile, and it's a great source of nitrogen for your compost pile. But a trick I learned, which plays into minimizing how I keep things as easy as I can around here, is just leaving the clippings on the lawn to feed it. To do that, you could probably just leave off the collection bag off your mower, but the battery mower that I have actually has a mulcher attachment, and all that does is it channels the clippings away from just getting stuck under the mower when I'm mowing. Now, one thing to know is that the first mow of the season, I set the height of the mower higher than usual, and I do collect the grass because I expect there's a lot of grass that first time I mow. So that's going to be too much to just leave on the lawn. I did that task actually a few weeks ago, so now I'm doing the subsequent mowings, and with these subsequent mowings, I'm just dropping the level of the mower down, and I'm leaving the clippings there and keeping it easy. Here are the seeds that I planted this week: ornamental grasses, quinoa, red garnet amaranth, and black sesame. I also potted up the tomatoes. You know, the North Garden, I feel, is audacious, and it's bombastic, and it's full of every variety and every color and every bit of energy that I can throw in there this spring. In comparison, this East Garden behind me is more subtle. It's subdued. I've got starts in here, and they're going to flower for us, hopefully, and we'll see more action here in the summer. But right now, the less is more. Right now, at this moment, it just seems more peaceful, more graceful, more elegant, less loud, and in that way I find it pretty satisfying.